Good afternoon, everyone. We will start in 3 minutes. Thank you so much for coming today. Good afternoon. We will start in 3 minutes. Thank you for coming today. Write this down. Good afternoon. We will start in about 2 minutes. Thank you for coming.
Yes.
Good afternoon. We'll start in about 1 minute. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much for coming to our first SIRAS boot camp. We will have a number of these throughout the year, actually one a month. And we are taking a little closer look at a few things today. I have some wonderful people here with us today that I would love to call on you if you have some wonderful tricks or things to share. This is meant to be of support to all of you. So please, please, please put your questions in the chat. Please keep you muted throughout the training as we are recording. And I would like to put this on our SBCSELPA YouTube channel. So if I ask you to unmute just to clarify a question, I will omit your name from this training. But I just, again, welcome your questions, welcome your input, and am here to help you throughout your SIRAS struggles in getting the school year launched to a happy place. So this is an hour-and-a-half training. Today, we are going to be covering the MIS summary page. We're going to be covering emailing form links and signatures, labels and batch forms, and then service logs. So in the chat, I have written down my help sheets, and I will share those help sheets after this training with all of you via email. These are my absolute favorite help sheets, and I will show you where they're located. You are absolutely welcome to download them, print them, and have them handy for yourself when you are creating your first IEPs. I always like to share where I find these things because honestly, they are the way I get through SIRAS when I get stuck. Oftentimes, if you're like me as a prior teacher, I would write my IEPs late at night, sometimes 8, 9 o'clock at night. And so when I would want to call for help, that help phone number would not be available. So I want to show you where these are located. So we're going to start by logging into SIRAS here. And I'm having some folks come in. So if you're coming in, my wonderful clerks around the county, if you're coming in in hopes that this is a Brian Marcantel training that will be at the end of this month. But again, I absolutely welcome you to come to this meeting and support. And if you have some tricks that you want to share, my lovely clerks that are here today, I would love for you to unmute after each segment and share maybe something that you have found helpful. And so for today, these lovely links, I have logged into SIRAS. This is my home page. You will notice my page may look a little differently than yours. Mine indicates all of SELPA. So all of SELPA is 25 school districts. And you'll notice here I have, as of today, 8,600 live IEPs through the whole county. That's a lot of students. So that number has actually gone up in the last couple weeks because I do watch this number. So these are pending students and active students in our database system. Lots and lots of IEPs. I want to call attention to where I have found my documents that I'm going to share today. So in our tools, you will notice there's several different things that we're going to cover, but I'm going to show you our support area and our support documents right here. You will notice at the top, each of these have a manual, how-to videos, information that is very helpful. Every single one of these underlined titles are links to documents that are downloadable. So the information that I'm sharing today on MIS summary page will be down in one of these libraries here. I will show you when I get to it. Let's see, where did I find it? It is on this page somewhere. It's kind of hard. You have to really have eyeglasses to see these kinds of things, and I don't have mine on at the time. But you will notice it is in this library somewhere. So I'm going to just put, I'm going to just pick on one for now. Checklist for avoiding common form errors. If I click on it, you will notice here there is a help sheet. It is downloadable and printable. And then for myself, I actually create a little library of my the forms that I find the most helpful. And I have that in a special file on my desktop. So that's just my suggestion for all of you in looking at these forms. One other thing I want to share in here that is new. So I'm returning by going back to the SIRAS homepage, is this bulletin board. So you'll notice here we have a bulletin board, SIRAS News. If I click on that, it will show you a newsletter, news information from SIRAS. And this is updated, I would say, about every 2 months with new information. So this is an important thing to read. Our Santa Barbara County SELPA, this is a newsletter and information that I just recently updated. So you will see here our September, October newsletter, which is right here. It's a link. So if I click on that, you will see our newsletter. Lots of important information on this newsletter for all staff, as well as for our clerks. So information on this time of year, what to pay attention to, and then also changes that occur within SIRAS. So there's just been a couple changes, not many this year, just a couple. And then there will also be important dates coming regarding CalPADS reporting and all sorts of good things. You'll notice Brian Marcantel from SIRAS has a Padlet there for CalPADS users, and then the support information is always at the bottom of this newsletter. So please take a look at that. And then I have a favorite forms document, which I have created, and this is for our new users. So you will notice it's just very simple favorite forms that I like to share out. And this continues to be added on to each month. with favorite forms. Again, those forms are in the support library under tools. Okay. And then finally, as you maneuver down through this bulletin board, you will see other links, other information related to form adjustments, and then our new terms. We have some new terms here. New terms are LEA, which is referred to our district of attendance. We love our acronyms in special ed. And then we have DSEA, District of Special Education Accountability. And then we have what I call the Dodger, the District of Geographical Residence. So these are new words that are throughout SIRAS. They are throughout many of our documents as well, in our procedural handbook and so forth. Lots of things to pay attention to, new terms and all. Again, anything that is underlined in SIRAS is a link. So everything that you see that is underlined is a link. One of our new forms that we did review at the end of last year and put into place, if you are a high school district, is this IEP 6E course of study, as well as the post-secondary transition plan. So this plan, we used to call it the individual transition plan, is for our students who are 16 and over. So what has changed with this form overall is we've added in some agency information, and then we've also added in a course of study for diploma, and then a course of study for certificate. So if the user clicks diploma or selects yes next to diploma, the course of study form for diploma will appear, and vice versa for certificate. If they check yes for certificate, this form will appear as a required form. So this was one change that occurred over the summer. Again, as always, we try yearly to take into account suggestions, comments, any form of revisions that are suggested to us. We have a SIRAS forms committee that meets regularly, and we discuss where forms need to have little adjustments. And then we put those adjustments forth to our special education directors for approval. So more to come on that. But again, we do not want to overwhelm you too much with too many form revisions in the beginning of the year. So for today, I'm going to actually transition over to our training server. And so I want to log out of my current server, and you'll notice I'm in the main version of SIRAS here. Again, 8,600 records. That means active IEPs or pending IEPs for that matter in SIRAS. So I'm going to log out of this, and I'm actually going to log into the SIRAS systems. So in the SIRAS systems training server, you'll notice it says at the top, training server. So if you had time and wanted to play around with students in this training server like I like to, this is where you would pretend to do a student. So for today, I'm logging in. All of this information you will find is fictitious information. You'll notice at this time we have 8,728 records in this training server. So what that means is there are some records in here that are not real students. In particular, the students that I have created for today. All of this information is not current information. It is fictitious information. It is old and outdated. So for purposes of this training, I created a new student, and her name is Wilma. Anyone Flintstone fans here? I don't know if anyone's a Flintstone fan. We'll see. So you will notice here, I am looking for my student Wilma. And my student Wilma, I just typed in her first name. So I'm in what's called a found set. I typed in Wilma. If I only knew her last name, I could type in Flintstone. So you can go by either first name or last name in the search bar here. The other place I could search would be in my little people in the beginning, where you saw that 8,700 and something amount. Again, I am on Santa Barbara County SELPA, so I'm seeing the whole county at this time. So if I were to switch to a district, I would be able to click on my little schoolhouse, look at my drop down, and you will notice all of my school districts here to choose from. For you, you may just have your district listed here, depending on what type of a user you are. So for now, because I have SELPA-wide access, I am in Santa Barbara County SELPA. So we're going to start with the MIS summary page, and I will pause at the end of this if my wonderful clerks that are here want to share some tidbits of wisdom on this page. So our MIS summary page pulls information, data from the IEP manager, which is located right here. So all of our students who are current in SIRAS have what's called an MIS summary page. This information is what I call the main information about the student. So you will notice it's very, 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 very important. Cannot emphasize this enough, that everything on this page is correct. So one thing to note with this is you may or may not have access to several things on this page, depending again on what type of user you are. If you are a clerk, you will have probably full access to this page. If you are a general user, meaning a teacher or a speech and language therapist, adaptive PE teacher, school psychologist, you may have a little bit of leisure in this page, but maybe not as much as a clerk. So just keep that in mind as you're maneuvering through this page. So things to note on this page that are important are your student ID, which you will notice right here. The student name is located right here. And then the IEP folder has the most current information in. And right now I do not have an IEP folder because I'm just about to create one. And then you will also have previously submitted records. So you'll see my student is active. She's in special education, and I can print her records here. On this page, it's asking me to validate this page. Validate in SIRAS means okay that everything on this page is correct and current. So it asks you to just say, yes, all of my data has been looked at, everything is current, and I can click on this page and validate that this page is correct. Okay, so maneuvering through this page, some things that sometimes change on this page, you will notice, is the disability during the triannual or the reevaluation, the participation right here in that LPAC or the state testing, the amount of time in general education, and then some of the fields, again, as I shared, are locked to some of the users. So some of that information cannot be updated and would require, again, that clerk or an admin one to unlock and make those changes. So for all of our users, if you are on this page and you see something that might be wrong, and I will say it might be wrong because there's maybe a red line or a red field a field in it that is red, and you cannot change anything, please contact your wonderful clerks at the district level, and they will help you update that area. Motoring through the top, I will show you throughout SIRAS are these blue question marks. If you click on that blue question mark, it will take you through a training video and all the information about this page. So again, as I shared earlier, I did pull my cheat sheet notes from that support library, but you can also find it throughout in those blue question marks. So if you get stuck, look for the blue question mark and it will help you with this page. Moving through this page, you will notice we have LEA identification information. So my student is actually a student at Santa Barbara Unified at Cleveland Elementary. Love Cleveland, yay Cleveland. They were referred as a youngster in 2017. My student is 7 years old, second grade. And you will see here, all of this information has been filled out. I've created a fake student ID and SSID number. My student is 6 years old. Maybe she should be in the first grade. I probably jumped the gun there. She is an EL, an English learner. She's actually Hawaiian. So she speaks Indonesian. So that causes a little bit of challenge with speech and language and expression. So you will notice in a minute, she does have support for speech and language, as well as for adaptive PE. At the top here are special education information. I'm sorry, I skipped one. Our providers would be listed here. Again, I do not have providers assigned because my student is not a real student. But had this been a real student, I would have actual names of a case manager, names of a speech and language therapist, and then a name of an adaptive PE teacher. Our special education information here shows where her disability lies. She has multiple disabilities. She is in a regular class public day school, and then you see her time out of general education. For all of you, this is a wonderful tool, this calculator, and I don't know if you've seen this, but you can actually calculate for elementary and then for middle school and high school how many minutes the student is out of the general education setting. So you just type in your minutes. So for her, I'm going to just put a few minutes, 100 minutes per day. And then for a 6-hour day, I'm going to put 360. And then I apply the calculation. And you'll notice it gives me a percentage right here. Again, it's just a lovely little tool to use. Furthering down, you'll see she is on a certificate. We have had parent input for this IEP. She actually does not have special education transportation. And then you will see her testing information right here. Furthering down on our list, at the bottom of the page, you will notice we have added in the service data. So to create a new service, you are to select create new service. You will notice here there are red fields. We call those kindly the red boxes of death, which remind us to fill out those particular fields. Don't forget to fill out those fields or there will be errors. You will notice our primary, related, transition, and supplementary service type. This goes along with those pages in the IEP. And then you will see in the drop downs the support folks that are wonderful that will support our student. You will see the district of service as the provider, and then the location, the frequency, how often. We encourage daily or weekly service. Actually, excuse me, we encourage weekly service. Daily, oftentimes some people could say, what about Saturday and Sunday? So we've had that question, what about Saturday and Sunday? Obviously, we do not work on Saturday and Sunday, so we want to make sure that we're not including those dates. You have what I think looks like a little present. It's actually a calendar. So you can put in your beginning date there, your ending date here. You check ESY if they are an ESY student, extended school year, and then any notes. You may have some notes that would look like collaboration or consult. Maybe you would have notes as a hybrid where the speech and language therapist works a little bit in the classroom and then maybe they work in the speech room. So these would be things that you could include in that space below. And then again, you save, and what occurs is this lovely little listing of all of the services. You'll see here, my student has speech and language as primary, secondary, specialized academic instruction, and then adaptive physical education. If you need to edit these services at all, you will see the edit button on the side here, which brings that field back up. A couple things to remind everyone on this particular page. Errors on this page are listed in red. So I talked a minute ago about the red boxes of death. So those red boxes of death are either those errors or they are don't forget to fill things in there, okay? Warnings are always in yellow. So if I forgot to fill out something on this page and I tried to validate it, there would be a little warning that would show up right here. And those warnings are so helpful because they actually tell you what to do, where to go back and where to fix something. So maybe you have a little something that you forgot to fill out. So that's what those warnings are for. There's also things that need to be reviewed before submitting the record to CalPADS and for state supporting. So really take a look again, depending on the kind of user you are, you may want to really make sure everything in this spot is complete and accurate. The other thing you may want to think about is that personal information for that student. So in that area, we're going to go to our student information, our student profile. And if I click on that, you'll notice I have a variety of drop downs. So if I click on the personal information, you'll notice that drop down information has now come to tabs right here. So if the student has moved or the parent has changed their email address or any demographic information, again, you want to pay attention to this particular area, make sure it is current on each IEP. Contacts, again, you have the one mother here, Jennifer Flintstone. If you needed to add a second contact because mom and dad are not living together, you would add a new contact here. And then that allows you to type into that field the information. Additional information that is sometimes pulled to the IEP is the general health area. So in the general health area, this is where many people might write, student has seizures, student has maybe a nut allergy, student has needs to take medicine every day at a certain time, that type of thing. You will see here all sorts of information that can be filled out if there is a need. And then again, the immunization information. Oftentimes we don't have this available, or we could possibly get it from our school database, but it's not required to have for the IEP. I always like to put the caveat on this, that this is information that is very private, this particular section. So really be mindful of that when you're putting information into this area, that it is something that would be helpful to the team and that the family is okay with that information in the database. Furthering, you have a notes section. This is a wonderful section where you can create a note. So in this, you can create a note such as each time you attempted to call the parent regarding IEP. So you'll notice here, I just typed in called parent regarding IEP. Please, again, be mindful of what you write because it can be used against you. So simple notes, just as called parent or discussed upcoming IEP or talked about issue at school. Again, you can categorize it by anything on this list. So if I clicked other, it would change it to other. The date is there, and then I save my note, and you will notice it is saved right here. This is kind of a nice way to keep track of all the contents, of the contacts we are making with our families. You can print these and bring them to the meeting and say, Mrs. Smith, I've contacted you this many times. Here's how many times I've contacted you. Just a really nice way of keeping track of visits with families. Finally, in this section, our documents file. This is where many of our school psychologists will upload information. This is where our speech and language therapists may upload reports along with our school psychs. So if you were to upload a file, you would click on the upload file. You'll notice that red box of death, there it is. You're going to decide on a category. If you do not see the category there that you want, you can actually type it in. But for purposes of this, I'm going to call it an assessment report. You're going to create a file description. So again, I'm going to type in example Flintstone assessment report. And then you would choose your file from wherever it is in your computer. And then you click on that and there will be an upload option to upload that file into this area. And it acts very similar to that notes page where you will see the title, the date, and then what the actual description is of the upload. This is a great area to upload signature pages if we actually have the real signature with a pencil, and any other documents that are important to have that need to be attached to this Wilma Flintstone or your student's IEP. Again, moving back to our MIS summary page, you'll notice I'm back to this page. Couple things to note. Again, we validate and submit. If there's any changes to this page, it will create what we call an archived record, and it locks in this MIS information into the system so we are ready to create that IEP. Again, you can view history of different information from this page and from other IEPs under this particular tab in the right-hand corner. And then you will notice this is an active IEP. If our students decide to become inactive or we exit them, it will show inactive or exited. All right, and I have a great comment. I'm going to share this, share your comment in a second. Thank you so much. Again, inactive means exited or not eligible for an IEP. It could also mean other. Maybe the student moved out of the SELPA and we had to make them inactive. The other, maybe if it says other, it could mean that the parent did not give permission to assess the student or that the IEP was abandoned or put on hold. So thank you so much for your comment. One of our wonderful clerks, thank you so much, said, this is where I upload IEP and psych reports under that. I think you're mentioning that, I'm gonna get there, that document file, correct? Yes. So she's saying she uploads psych reports for a new student that transfers in, but is not in SIRAS. So this is where she does that right here. And also from the non-SIRAS school. Yes. So if they were from SACE, this is where she may upload that information. Thank you so much for that comment. That's fabulous. So I'm going to pause for a minute and I'm going to ask any of my wonderful clerks online today, you may unmute yourself for a moment. And if there's any other tidbits that you'd like to share on the MIS summary page.
I have a question.
Yes.
My name is Karen
Yes.
Nielsen. I'm the new district nurse here for Hope Elementary School.
Awesome.
And
Thanks.
I was going, I was going in to check about the health plan, and I saw that that format was a little different than my previous district in Ventura County. Did they change that, or is that?
So great question. So our SIRAS and Ventura's SIRAS is a little bit different. So obviously in look and in form organization. So I'm going to use the term when you buy a car, you can get the cloth seats, the leather seats with the DVD player, or you can get the leather seats with the DVD player and the navigation and all the bells and whistles. So you have kind of 3 different models. So with Ventura's wonderful SIRAS, they have been in SIRAS for a long time. They have updated their forms just as we have updated ours. And so you get, when you join SIRAS, you get a base model that car with the cloth seats, and then you can upgrade it as you go. And so we are continually upgrading it. What you see right now, yes, is probably different than Ventura, but we are absolutely happy to make changes to that. If you have suggested changes, I would love to hear them. So you're welcome to email me. I'm going to put my email in the chat.
Will. Thank you. Okay.
Yeah,
I will.
I'm going to put my email in the chat. And you're welcome to suggest some things to me, because I am not living in the health world. I'm living in a different world. And if it's not helpful to you, then I want to make it that way. So I'm happy to bring suggested changes to our SIRAS forums committee. And everything that we change in SIRAS does cost a little bit because it has to be mapped in Spanish, has to be mapped to multiple forms. And so it depends on how big the change is. If it's a little change, it might be okay. But if it's a big change, then it's a little different. But
okay, I'll email you and
great.
let you know. But thank you.
Thank you for that, though. I appreciate it. Any other questions or input before we move to emailing electronic forms? And if you're not sure, you may put it in the chat. All right, I'm going to move on. So we're going to go to my student Wilma's IEP. So at the top, I'm going to go to my student IEP, which is right here in the IEP manager. So you will notice I have created an IEP. I wrote an IEP for my student Wilma. She's just had an annual review. Her mom loved this IEP. And so everything has been approved and everybody's happy. So you will notice for all of you, this meeting is occurring actually tomorrow. So we're going to be hosting this meeting tomorrow. You will see everything is filled out. And This meeting was delayed because there was a little student emergency. Her annual is actually in August. So we had a little bit of a delay. I did write some scheduling notes here. This is another great place to write down if you're contacting the parent to let, to see if they're coming or to see if they need an interpreter or whatnot. Mine, even though my student is an English learner, she does not need an interpreter at the meeting itself. And then you'll see here, we can add contact attempts here. So if you need to add more information, you can add another one. And then if you need to continue the meeting, many of our meetings are continued because we have so much to share and we just run out of time. So you can add a continuation meeting here. In future trainings, we will talk about all the different types of meetings that we have. So for today, you will notice each of our forms that were required originally were red. Red means stop, get it done. If you get it done and you do it in entirety, you can see it is checked green. Sometimes it will check green, even if it's not completely done. And that's a little problematic. Sometimes it will, so be mindful of that. Be really, really careful that you fill out the entire form as it's supposed to be filled out and complete it. You will notice I'm hovering over it. It shows who submitted this form the last time, so that you may have multiple little bubbles of people on this form because you have several providers on this student. But overall, the forms that are all green were required and they are now completed. So we're going to go in a minute to signing our forms. So at the top, you will notice I have this Spanish option here, and I purposely picked on this because I wanted you to see how that came up, even though my student is not Spanish. At the top, it says translation required. If you talk to the family and you say, Mom and Dad, do you want this entire IEP to be translated? You are going to check this translation required because they said, yes, I want the whole thing in Spanish. In checking this, notifies our translators in our at our district level that they need to translate the whole IEP. So if the parent says, no, thank you, I'm good, I'm okay, I don't need it translated, then you need to uncheck that and it takes that translation away. So really make sure that you ask that question. For our Spanish families, and I'm going to check it again just to show you, you'll notice in checking it, you have your Spanish forms here that are ready to be printed for that IEP. But these will not appear until this form, that all these forms that are required are filled out in entirety. So you need to fill the form out first in English, and then you may click the Spanish translation required to see the form in Spanish, and I will show you what it looks like. There it is. Something to keep in mind here, and then you save and return. Keep in mind here that anything that you type, anything that you type in Spanish into the system does not get translated. Any drop downs, any pre-text in the system can be translated into that Spanish form. So it will need a human being to translate it if you typed into that form. Okay, so keep that in mind. I'm going to uncheck this for this meeting because my student is not Spanish, they're actually Hawaiian. So looking further down, I have completed this IEP, and now we're going to go to our sending our forms to our family. So you will notice here we have 2 forms that we want to make sure the family signs. And this is for This is for our families that are maybe online, and many of our districts are choosing to have the families sign this meeting participation ahead of time, as well as our pre-meeting notice of meeting ahead of time. So in this notice of meeting, I'm going to show you here. The notice of meeting has what's next to it, a manage links. So if you were to select manage links, you will notice this little field comes up. There's those red boxes of death again, asking for who is this link, this notice of meeting. You'll see a little picture there of the notice of meeting. Who is this going to? So for this one, it is going to the parent. You can see you have other options of general education teacher or other participant. Maybe it needs to go to some sort of service, or it needs to go somewhere else. So you can also select that to let others know if it's an outside service, whatnot. You will notice I clicked parent, and automatically the parent, Jennifer Flintstone, has been transferred from that contact page onto this form. And then you will see here her email address listed right below. And this is the email that is in the system itself. And then I would create a new link. Okay. My new link here shows one existing link. It shows the parent information. It shows the email subject. And then it also shows the parent reply to your email. Okay. Shows a picture of what the form is. And then it gives a little bit of information right here on what it is you're sending. So for Wilma Flintstone notice of meeting, please follow the link below to view and sign this document. This form is used in development of your student's IEP. Okay, so it gives us little directions. It gives the link, which you would click on, or the parent would click on. It also gives a little video showing how to sign that form. And then it shows the thank you for your assistance. Now, this form oftentimes comes from a SIRAS email or a no reply. So sometimes families will have it in their spam, or they won't want to open it because it's unfamiliar to them. So if you want, you can copy this link, this information to your clipboard, and then you can paste it into your personal email to send out to families from your school address, not from SIRAS itself. The other thing you can do on this form is you can click the Spanish, and you will notice if it will give brief directions in Spanish here on how to, what is coming. And then it will also give a tutorial in Spanish on how to sign this particular form. Most of these forms that have this manage link next to it most of the forms that need to be signed will have manage links next to it. So the forms that will need signatures would be the meeting notice, the assessment plans, the meeting participation, and you'll see them down here, and then the consent for placement. So these are the forms that you will need to possibly send to your families. A couple things to think about before you send any of these forms to the families. If there are things where you need to have signatures from other participants in the IEP. So if I were on my meeting participation, you will notice here I have ahead of time asked the other participants in my group to sign that they were coming to this meeting. So this is something you could share a couple minutes before the meeting. You have your adaptive PE teacher, special education teacher, speech and language pathologist, all sign that they were coming. And the way they do that is they click on this particular link here. They type in their information. So I'm going to click therapist, and then you click in the field. You can choose your favorite color. I'm going to choose blue, and then you just sign away. If you don't like how it looks, you just clear it and you can sign it again. And then make sure you type their name in this field right here. And then you click sign, and then it is done right there. Okay, so these are things, again, that you can have your team do ahead of the game. That is, if your team has access to SIRAS. If the student is of 18 years or older, they can actually sign under the parent adult student area here. It's important to confirm the parent's email prior to sending the form. These are just little note, I call them no-das, because it's important to have these things. You don't want it coming back at you, because that just adds more time to your plate and frustration. Review the forms for accuracy before entering your entering anything. Make sure it has the right people listed, the right titles listed. And then also on that, the other form, which I'm going to show you in a second here, on the consent for placement form, this is something that is a little bit helpful. We have oftentimes been told, my parent, she just signs every box. You see all these boxes and they just go down and they just sign everything, whether it pertains to them or not. So the feature that SIRAS decided to use, and you'll see these little, I call them carrots, is something called NA. So if you don't want your parent to write, to sign in that area, you're going to click on that carrot and click in NA. Okay. So I received notice of the IEP team meeting, but did not attend. Well, we know the parent attended, so that would be an NA. I request a copy of this IEP in my primary language other than the mode of communication. You can see the drop down there, which I'm going to add because my person is Indonesian. I'm going to add that. And the parent said, no, don't need it. So I selected NA. So you'll notice what's left is the parent received their rights. They participated in the meeting, and then they have a copy of the assessment plan. This was an annual, so we don't need that. So we're going to put an NA there as well. And then they agree, or they agree with exception or whatnot. So you'll see, and then at the bottom, they can sign here. It gives you a option confirming you are attesting that you are sharing your computer or device with the parent. Obviously, I'm not, but in this case, my parent could sign here. Okay. Again, once all of this is signed, and I'm going to sign as the mom. So I'm going to sign JF. Ooh, sorry, this is it's kind of funny. Jennifer Flintstone. And I'm signing. So you will notice there's my initials. I'm signing there. I'm signing here. I'm not signing where it says NA. I'm agreeing with the eligibility. And I'm signing here because I'm improving the Medi-Cal. And then as a parent, I am signing Jennifer Flintstone. And I'm typing in my name. And there it is. So I have signed my IEP. I have approved it. And I'm going to save and return. Okay. So in this case, this parent was there, they're using my computer, they signed it at the meeting itself. Again, if you were to send that to the parent, you could manage that link. And it takes a couple minutes. You are sending, again, this consent page, there it is. And you're creating a new link. Meeting must be held before the signature is requested. So the meeting is actually tomorrow. So that's why it's telling me that. But what would be here is a new link, and then that parent would receive that as something they could sign. Okay. I'm looking at my notes here. There could be some issues. I think I shared already this information. If the parent is not getting the email containing the link, again, copy it to that clipboard, open it up in your personal email and paste it into the body of your email. Always confirm the address. And then again, if it's in Spanish and you do copy it to that clipboard, you can add anything you'd like to that email and send that on. Included in that consent for placement is also the notice and rights safeguards for the family. So that is also included. If the parent signed incorrectly, the case manager can click the manage links next to the form and they can delete it and resend it to the parent again. Okay. I believe I've shared anything else. I'm going to pause for a moment and ask if there are any questions on the manage link or the sending electronic signatures. Or for that matter, successes you've had that you'd like to share that I missed for that matter. You all are a quiet bench today. All right. Hearing no questions, we're going to move on to our batch forms information. So for this particular student, you will notice at the very top, because we have pretty much finished this IEP, if the parents signed, we could do a print preview. So you'll notice to the right, it allows you to add a draft watermark to every page on this document. We can download and print that if we'd like. So I'm going to add this draft watermark, and then I'm going to download and print this document. And you will notice here, it appears. Well, this one doesn't have the draft. Sorry, I lied. Excuse me. Sorry, and I just clicked myself out of there. There we go. It's on this particular page. So what will happen here is you have to add that draft watermark and then number those pages and click the meeting held. So again, if you notice, the meeting held is not available yet because the meeting date must be in the past. So my meeting is tomorrow. So I can't click that meeting held, even though I'm completely finished with the IEP. So that would be actually visible. It would be nice and dark, and I could print preview and take care of everything. On the right side next to this will be a finalize. So if everything is final, you will click that. The parent consented. It will ask you, did the parent consent? Oftentimes our families want to see that, that complete IEP for a few days. So you would want to select awaiting consent. And then as soon as you receive that signature page, you're going to change that awaiting consent to accepts the plan. Okay. Any other feedback or questions before we move on? Okay. We're going to move on to our batch labels, and I'm going to reset, and I'm going to return to my MIS summary page, and I'm going to return to the beginning of our SIRAS here. So this is a wonderful, wonderful tool to use for our general education teachers, as well as for all of our services if you wanted to print the student's IEP at a glance. So in the tools section, you'll notice I'm no longer on Wilma. If I wanted to go on to Wilma, I could go back to either my student records and find her name, or again, I could type in Wilma and return. You'll see her there. And now I'm on her MIS summary page. So for this, we're going to go to our labels and batch forms to find the IEP at a glance. So I'm clicking on that. You will notice right now we're on this label area. So if you're making files, this is a lovely way to make files for all of your caseload. It walks you through what size to use, what you want on that label, and then you just create your labels. So very, very helpful situation right here. For our batch forms, we're going to go to the batch forms tab. You will notice on the left are the forms listed on the side here. So you can do batch forms for any service that you want. So for instance, if you were getting ready for your statewide assessments and you just wanted those accommodations for the statewide assessments, which is a great way to put them in a binder and have them ready so you know what the accommodations are. You would click on that batch forms here. You'll notice it creates a batch form area down at the bottom. You'll see here statewide assessments. And then it shows batch forms view PDF. So I'm going to view my PDF, and this would be for this particular student. This is one student that that I have selected. This one actually does not have any accommodations at all. So moving backwards, we're going to go back to our batch forms. But you could print out your batch forms for your entire caseload, which would be awesome in any of these areas. So if you wanted to just have their goals, you could batch all of your students' goals here. You could do it one by one as well. So for this, I am actually still on a found set of Wilma. I'm going to actually find her IEP at a glance. So the IEP at a glance encompasses goals, which are always checked. If she has a behavior plan, you would check that. If she has that emergency health plan that my wonderful Karen mentioned, and then emergency conditions provision. So that's for our, if we were to shut down for 10 days or more, as we did for COVID, what would be the plan for that particular student during that time. So again, all of these will be included in my IEP at a glance because I checked them. But if you didn't want to include that, you would just keep it unchecked. Okay, I'm going to create the batch form here. You will notice there's this little 0 that turns to 100, and then the page kind of jumps. So you have to go down to the bottom. You'll notice I have a new IEP at a glance right here that I created. You can download it or you can view it. So I'm going to view it. And here is what it looks like. We have our student information at the top. We have her disability, her English learner status. BIP is checked no. So I wasn't sure if she had a BIP or not. If she didn't, it's okay. It's not going to put it there. ESY is not checked because she does not have ESY. In the first part here, her eligibility and accommodations, you'll see all of her accommodations listed here. Furthering down on the list, you'll see the special education and related services. So all the services that she has will be listed here. And again, this is mapped from that IEP to this IEP at a glance. And then your assistive augmentative devices and tools. So she does not have a lot of assistive tech, but she does have audiobooks, visuals, and graphic organizers, which you can see I listed right here in the IEP itself on the special factors page, which has now been transferred onto this page. Furthering down, she does not have low incidence books, materials, or equipment, but that information would be listed here if it was checked in the IEP. And then finally, her services and supports. She has consultation. This should say with general ed teacher. That's a mistake of mine. Don't tell anyone. And then furthering down, if she had a health plan, that's where this would be listed, Karen, is anything related to health would be here from that present level page. So that would be brought forth from the present levels health area. And that is the end of that page. I have another IEP at a glance below this, which I'm not going to share for another student at this time because I did check the 2 students. So you can see I can actually check multiple students and I can print my entire caseload on this IEP at a glance, which is really, really fun, and have them all ready to go for our general ed staff, for our support staff, for anyone that needs this particular document. So are there questions on this particular form?
How did you get to the health part again?
The health part, yes. So the health is on the present levels on the IEP. So I'm going to get out of this. I'm going to return to my batch labels. I'm going to go to my student information, the IEP manager. And in the present levels right here, and I'll put something in the health so you know what I'm talking about. You'll see here, this throws a lot of people off. Our present levels page is very long and large. So you'll notice we've had a lot of folks ask, you know, I write a lot in the pre-academic. I usually include their test scores and so forth. So we've decided to make these boxes bigger and add pages. So you'll see page 1 here. Page 2 is the communication, the gross fine motor, and the social emotional. And then the page 3 is the vocational, adaptive living, and then the general health. So here is where I wrote no concerns at this time, but I could write seizures. I could write taking medication for focusing. And then you can include medical information right down here. So maybe hospitalized in 2020 for anxiety, example. Okay. If there is a need for more room, you can always add a page here, which gives you a blank page. So for my wonderful nurse today, if you have a lot to write on a particular student, you could type in health, continued, and then continue typing what you needed to type here.
Okay, thank you.
Again, I'm going to save this. I'm going to go back and show you how it populated over to that batch form. So I'm going to go back to the batch forms. And I'm going to, I think it will be here, but I'm going to double check if it will be here. So here's my student once again. And it should be down here. If it's not, yeah, it hasn't. I have to do a new one. So I will do a new one. This is from the old one. So let me go back. I'm going to create a new batch form for my student Wilma. Oh, I believe I didn't check emergency help. That's why it was not showing up. So I'm checking all of them this time just to have them there to show you. You'll see here my number is 0. It's 100 now. And it's right here. So here is my Wilma. Sorry, I don't mean to make you dizzy. You see here my health information is listed right here. Seizures, taking medication for focusing. Okay, the hospitalized information did not transfer over. I'm not exactly sure why. It probably needs to go in that top box there. Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, ma'am. Any other questions or thoughts on this IEP at a glance? I will say caveat as you're thinking, this form has had some glitches in the past. Sometimes information is not transferred over to this form. If you have that issue, please let me know. I will contact our developer and make sure it is fixed. Sometimes there's a little glitch that happens, and it just happens. So just keep that in mind. Keep that in mind that sometimes things are left off and they shouldn't be. So, all right. For the last few minutes, we're going to talk about our service logs. So I would like to share a little bit about our service logs. For those of you that this may or may not pertain to, you're welcome to exit and say goodbye. But I want to share that service logs are super important and possibly may be required by our Department of Education, CDE, in the future, I am hearing. So in the future, I am hearing service logs may be required by all of our staff to show and document student services and progress. So keep that in mind. It's a great tool to organize for your IEPs, to show what you've been working on with your students. And there's ways to do it quickly. So it's not a ton of work on your part to do. So please consider using the service log option. It's really a helpful thing. Service logs are not intended for Medi-Cal billing. They can be represented in a list or a graph, which I'm going to show you in a minute. And again, they're really handy for your IEPs to show the work you've done with your students. So again, I am selecting my student Wilma. So I'm going to select Betty this time. So I'm going to search for Betty. I have a Betty. Sorry, excuse me. I have a Betty. I think she's still there. Yes, I have a Betty Rubble. And we are going to create a service log. So in the student info area, data collection, you will see the service log option here. So this is where I'm going to go for the first time for my student. There's another area you can also find service logs. And the other area is this reporting. And then you see the service logs here. So you can do them in either place. For today, I'm going to do them once again in my data collection and progress. You notice we have progress reports here as well. So that will be another day boot camp. But we're going to do this service log for today. So for this particular one, you will notice I have my Betty's name right here. She actually, I'm going to reset my search and I'm going to go to a new student. I'm going to go to my my Wilma because I don't think I have any goals for Betty yet. Let's see. All right. Okay. So this is my Wilma. Again, you're going to be building this particular log. So I you will notice there's little pluses, which is going to ask you to input information. So I'm going to create a service log for Wilma Flintstone. You will notice the service provider, because I don't have anyone assigned to her, it's not showing that service provider. Again, on that MIS summary page, it would show a service provider name listed there, but I don't have any service provider names assigned to her yet. But you can see here the service delivered, and it gives you options. So there's a variety of options here that it will give you. In particular, IEP, and then non-IEP, transition work experience based, and all of those services there. So for this is going to be an IEP, service delivered. Okay. We're going to actually select what service. You'll notice when I drop this down, it shows all of her services that she has on her IEP. So for this one, we're going to select specialized academic instruction. Okay. It's going to show the service date, start time and end time. So we're going to start at 8 in the morning. We're going to end at, I'm going to say noon, or let's say I see her until 10. That's my service time. Here is the student. And again, you can play with all these time frames. For our related services, maybe you see them for a half an hour. You can put that in there. For the service delivery, is it individual, group, consult, makeup, not scheduled, absent, or unexcused? So imagine this, you're meeting with mom, and mom has kept Wilma home because she's afraid of COVID, and she's kept her home for several weeks. Or maybe Wilma had COVID and had to stay home. You can actually click absent, showing that the student was not there when you were to offer the service. And you can type in a note, student ill, not available, which is really lovely, because then that tracks that you were ready for that service, but the student was not made available. And you'll notice here, student SSID, service delivered, and the notes right here. So imagine you are creating this narrative of all the things you have done with that student. So going back to creating that log for Miss Wilma, all of this information is again put in there. Again, I'm doing specialized academic instruction. For my student, if her IEP was finalized, you would see one of her academic goals right here. Currently, it says student has no goals because I haven't finalized her IEP yet, but her academic goal that I wrote for her would show up right here. And then it asks you to document progress. So right here, you would be able to add whatever percentage you want. Accuracy, you could add 50%. You could put anything you wanted there. Consistency, again, is the number of trials for accuracy. So consistency, maybe 3 out of 5. And then a comment area, mentioning to you that this is a drop down, but you can also add in a comment if you don't like what is noted here. So maybe your student is making progress, making good progress. Maybe they have been absent a lot. So you maybe want to write absence affecting progress. So you can choose the drop down, and then you can also type in the drop down additional information. And then at the bottom, you write your notes. So this is optional again. You can talk about performance. You can talk about the interactions you have with the student, observations. So for instance, student shy, student appears tired, or student loves to talk with another student and unfocused, and something along that line, whatever you want to write. And then you validate and save. And you'll notice I have massive errors. Look at that, massive errors. The coordinator of SELPA, massive errors. So the reason I have these errors, obviously validation errors, value is required. So it will show you where in particular you're having the errors. So for me, this is not an active IEP yet. So that's why I have all these lovely errors. If it was an active IEP, I wouldn't have those problems. It'll show you here, start an hour. I forgot to do this. So if I put that in, I'm hoping that maybe it will let me not have that error. Let's see. So I see her for a half an hour. Let's see if that cleared that one. Oh, successfully saved the service log. So that was my problem. I forgot to put in the time. So you'll notice my service logs are building here. I've now created 2 of them. What's lovely about this is you can print this entire log once again and bring it to the meeting, which is just super, super helpful to show all the amazing work you all are doing. So again, not required yet for all providers to do this, but possibly in the future, CDE, California Department of Ed, may say, hey, I want everyone to do service logs on students. One thing to note, you'll notice there is an option to create a group service log. This is super, super helpful to all of you, especially to our people that have so many people that they see, our speech and language therapists, our OTs, our school psychs, our teachers who have 20, 30, 40 kids, hopefully not 40 kids. So if you wanted to do a grouping of students, you are able to create a group service log. So in order to do that, you're going to create a new group. You will notice we have a couple students listed in here. If you were going to add all to the service group, you're going to select that, or I can go to my student list and add students to that service log. So in doing so, there would be checkboxes here where I would add my 2 students to that service log, and then we would put them in there. So going to this, we're going to be adding a few students. You will notice here at the top, create new service log for Wilma. I also want to view other students. So I would click there. I'm not going to do that at this time because I don't want to show you a bunch of names at this time, but I could select by selecting those little boxes off to the side and add them to my new group here. My student group, I can name the student group. So new student service group 1. I can do a group description. So if I called it purple group, that would be the name of my group. You'll notice it changed. So I know my purple group are these students, or it could be my AM speech 9 to 10, meaning my 9 o'clock to 10 o'clock group. Students in the group, you would add students here, and that would show you on your list who you have. It would pull up your caseload, and you could select the students you wanted to add to that group, and then you would create the log for that group. So what happens with this, it's showing no students selected, but what happens with this when I select those students is it lists all the students by name and by the goals that they have in SIRAS. So you can create a log on each student at the same time. So you can go through simultaneously, just like I showed you for my one student, and create that log for all of the students in that particular group. Really, really, really helps with so much of your time. And I see there is a hand raised. You can unmute yourself and ask your question if you'd like.
Thank you. I'm looking for the option to create a group with just a few students, but I don't see the button for that. I just see add all students.
So you're going to create a new group. And if I were to select those two students, let's see here. I think I'm going to add all to the service group right here. And you'll notice they're right here.
So when I add all, it adds all of the students, not just the ones I checked.
Because you're probably adding all. You want to uncheck a couple of them, I believe. And I'm wondering if I have a clerk on here that is familiar with that. I believe you would only check the ones that you want to add. Have you tried
so
that?
when I check, yeah, exactly. And then it adds all the students, not just the ones I checked.
Can you delete a student from that list?
Yeah, it just would take a long time because there's 21 students and I have 4 students in the group.
So I'm going to delete my little guy here. It's asking, I clicked on that X and it's asking, do you want to remove this student? I'm going to say yes, and I removed him. Honestly, you should be able to check those boxes to the right, uncheck them, and then those people will not be added to your group. So you would only select the ones that you want to add.
Okay, it didn't work, but that's okay.
I'll play around with it a little bit and see if I can't figure out what's going on there. That's kind of odd.
Okay.
Do you want to
No
leave your
worries.
name? Can you leave your email in my chat and I will play with that and then get back with you. How's that?
Okay, sounds good.
Yeah, sorry about that. That's
okay.
That's kind of weird. I don't know why that's doing that. You stumped me. No, it's all good. It's sometimes better plans don't work out. I don't know why. And anyways, again, getting back to this, thank you for that question. And I will definitely reach back with you on that and get you some information. The other wonderful thing about this service log information is you can create some beautiful, beautiful reports with this as well. And that document actually in a graph form how your students are doing. So you'll see here we have options: generate progress graph, generate service minutes report. So if I were to click on that, and I don't have anything in here, but I'm just showing you, if you had multiple service logs listed here, you would have a lovely graph showing the progress to show the parent, which is actually really kind of cool. To show that the student is maybe showing progress, and it shows it by percentage of progress and the service log date. So that's one little spot. And then the other area is obviously by date, how often you see the person. You can create information on that as well. So again, you can see here, this is where we started, where we entered the information. Again, this will show the student goal. So you don't have to go to the goal developer to find the goal. It will show it there. And then you just complete this information here. Very short and simple. In your notes, you can also add in worked on comprehension today, got 5 out of 10 correct. You could write in the assignment you did, whatever is needed, and then validating and saving allows a service log to be generated on that prior page. So I am 3 minutes to go for my time. Are there any questions or additional information that you would like to ask about before we close for this first boot camp today? And you can put it either in the chat or unmute. Oh, Juliana, thank you. She figured it out. You have to click the little yellow arrow above the check marks, then click search only for selected students, then add. Okay. See, thank you. You know, this is not something I do every day, and I appreciate that tidbit. So once again, thank you so much for telling us that. So she said you click the little yellow arrow above the check marks, then click search only for selected and add your students. Thank you for figuring that out. You saved me some time. Thank you. Thank you so much for the sweet comment. Thank you. All right, well, we are at 3 o'clock. Again, I am so grateful that you are here today. We will meet again next month for another SIRAS boot camp. I look forward to having you if you'd like to come again. I am here at your service. My name is Jennifer Connolly, coordinator of Santa Barbara County SELPA. I welcome you to reach out to me with questions. If you are stuck in any way, please go to that tools, support, and you may contact our wonderful SIRAS gentlemen who are there usually from 8 a.m. to 6 p.m. to answer any of your questions. You may also email support if you get stuck, or you may email me at jconnolly@sbceo.org. Thank you so much. I wish you all a lovely, lovely rest of the day and rest of the week. Have a great day, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you. Have a good day, everyone. Signing off.
Bye, Jennifer.
Bye, everybody. Good to see you.
Good to see you too.
Bye-bye.